Hello. How are y'all doing? It's been, well, maybe it hasn't been too long. So, oop, oop. If you are not aware, I'm doing some yearly wrap up things, some year end wrap up things on the Legacy channel. Oh, I guess I could look ahead on this channel. If you hear some Animal Crossing, it's because I got to check my turnip prices before noon. And I'm probably going to be on here for a minute and just chill, We can just chill. This is my chill channel. I'm not quite sure. I do kind of want to. Let's see. Let's get one of these. What does 2021 look like? I'll do two cards. First card is what it looks like. Second card is what we need to know about it. And again, if you hear a little bit of Animal Crossing, you might not because my TV is kind of low right now. But if you hear a little bit of Animal Crossing, I'm checking my turnip prices. So, first card was what it looks like. Second card is what we need to know. Oh, Divine Support almost came out, which is interesting because that was like I saw it and then it came out earlier today at the same time. Okay. Oh snap! Yay! I just got a new DIY recipe for a snowflake wreath. Oh, I'm sorry. Now that I can see, like even Animal Crossing is different. I'm like, whoa! There's like this hay bed, and it's interesting because with 1 second. Who's that? Oh, Divine Support. It's interesting because like the game is not necessarily true to life, but the hay, like the texture of the hay in the hay bed, it looks out of place because it's like, okay, that looks like hay instead of like Nintendo hay or something. You know what I mean? Maybe not. Oh, red corner, blue corner. I got another blue corner. I just got the red corner the other day. Okay, turnip prices are 131. Oh crap. If turnip prices are 131 right now, that means they're probably going to fluctuate this week because it's day one. Or I could just get a spike early in the week. Okay, I'm about to log these. I use and it's an Animal Crossing app. It's a Animal Crossing New Horizons guide, ACNH guide. If you play Animal Crossing, it's a pretty cool app. And there's a part of it where you can track your turnip prices and it'll tell you what pattern you have. I don't know what it was last week. Excuse me? It was 101. It's interesting because my buying price for turnips was 101 yesterday and my brother's was 110. And I was like, oh, both of those are like an 11 or a 2, but you know, yeah, fluctuating. That's what I thought. I'm like, if it's higher, if it's this much higher than what I bought them for on Monday, then they're going to be fluctuating all week. There is a small spike chance though. Oof. But that small spike is like not even that much more. So I'm sorry, y'all, but I'm about to sell these turnips. No, I'll wait. I'll wait. Because even if my prices don't go up, someone else's might. I'll just have to send out a message like, "Hey, I know that like we may not necessarily be playing Animal Crossing like that anymore. But if you could check your turnip prices every now and then for me, that'd be cool, right?" Healing again, divine support and healing. I just cut to the middle of the deck. Divine support and healing came out on the Legacy channel, like literally just now. And what was interesting on the Legacy channel is that cards 48, 49, and 50 came out. 48, 49, and 50 are the last three cards in this deck. And so maybe I'll use a different deck tomorrow. Because that was like, the final of the final messages. I don't know. I'll go with it. Because I did just think, I'm like, am I going to use these? Oh, there it is. Am I going to use these for everything? I did. That was the original intention. 14, sorry. Number 14, Drive, is at the bottom of the deck. Drive. This Drive is giving me a Chariot energy for 2021. And a Chariot energy for 2021 is interesting because it's almost like the energy that we leave 2020 with is what is going to be really moving us in 2021. Excuse me. So if we're entering 2021, it feels like if we're entering 2021 with a space of like 2020 really sucked and I need for everything to change to feel better. Like if we entered 2021 needing a savior, then we may not get as far as like if we're entering 2021, like knowing that we have the ability to shape and mold our own lives, and that doing that means that it requires something of us. We have to put into it. It's not just going to happen, maybe. And if it does just happen, then there are other things that kind of sort of precede it. There's a reason why it's just happening. There's something else that had to occur first. Because for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. We just may not see it, or it may not sort of happen on the same level of existence, for example. And, a spiritual action is very, very, very heavy. And so it can influence a lot on the physical. So let me switch back to my other reading glasses to read this book. What's interesting though, I think I'm just used to like, since I was, because I'm not anymore, since I was extremely nearsighted, I'm used to like holding things right up to my face. And I can't do like now I have to hold it back a little bit to be able to read it. Cultivation and Healing is what I went to. Let's read Drive real quick. Drive. Oh, it's right here. Confidence as well as unity of purpose and control are desirable. Ganesha urges you to think about getting back to the basics. It is a great time to lighten your load or simplify your life. You may have had a tendency to overextend yourself or overcommit to social activities. Cut back on your schedule so you can zero in on something that you are called to do. This card indicates new motivation or inspiration. If you have been feeling stuck in a situation or in finding a solution, rest assured that energy is going to start moving again. You do not have to choose to go alone on your path. Make sure that if you do bring others with you, that they have the same goals and objectives in mind. Pay attention not to linger in relationships or friendships that are going nowhere or settle just because you feel obligated. This is not a time to be complacent. If you want to create changes in your work, explore what your options might be. There might be an increase in finances, but this is not a time to be spending money. Bide your time and prepare for what is coming. This might also indicate that a trip or extended travel is on the horizon. With that work thing, it's like, even though it honestly feels like there may be an opportunity to invest in something coming up, and you're going to be given the funds to do it. And so, like, even if you're getting more money, then, like I said, it's not necessarily a time to go spending crazy. And investing in something could be like, something breaks down and you have to replace it, but it feels like an opportunity. It feels like maybe meeting someone that's like, oh, like I have this amazing idea. We just need funding. If you have the funds, we would love to bring you in on it. If you don't have the funds, then like, we don't necessarily need you. Right? Because it's like sometimes what we have can be complete. We just need the resources to bring it to the market or to bring it to real life. And when we do that, it's like we still want for the people that we get funding from to align with it in some way. And so you are someone who aligns with it, but who isn't necessarily critical to the doing or the creation of it. But what is critical is your ability to fund it, and not only financially, but you also may be funding it like in terms of, let's say that it takes, like, let's say that there's a minor setback and everyone on the team is ready to give up and call it quits, but you're going to be like contributing that little bit of motivation or perspective or insight that they need to continue going and growing. And so maybe while it starts as something that's purely sort of financial, it evolves into something a little bit more, but finances might be your entry into this, for example. Not necessarily, but hey, it's possible. With Popsicle, anything is possible. So this is what 2020 is going to be like. This is what we need to know. Inner knowing for 2021. Inner knowing for 2021, 17. Inner knowing is interesting because everything that came out on the Legacy channel was connected to like inner knowing, and it was related to connecting to that part of self. And I guess this is why it's so important, because that's what it's going to be about in 2021, which is kind of sort of what I was saying about, or what I meant to say about that. Whatever energy you kind of sort of leave 2020 with is going to be what you enter 2021 with. And if you need somebody else to know, like, that's that savior complex type of thing. Not savior complex, but that's that needing a savior complex. Like, I need for this to happen. I need for that to happen. I need for everything else to happen before I can do whatever it is that I want to do. And that's not necessarily the case. Because where there's a will, there's a way, right? And, you know, oh, there's something. You know, God and spirit, it's waymaker energy. It's that deus ex machina. Even though it doesn't seem like even though there's like no logical, reasonable way to see that things would come to the conclusion that they came to, things ended up gorgeous. Even when all that was there to be perceived was despair. That's that deus ex machina energy. You have a place inside you that holds your most significant answers. Within each of us lies our intuitive knowing. Motivation and ideas are present, yet untapped in this space within us. The spark of the divine waits patiently for us to tune in and retrieve our guidance. This is a time of soul searching. You are in a phase of introspection where you are drawing your attention and focus inward and looking for guidance within. You have a strong need to understand, not just at the surface level, but also to really know why things are unfolding in the manner that they are. You now have access to the inner knowing that the truth and acceptance you seek is within you. This is a perfect time to take a step back from your day-to-day life and deeply contemplate your motivations, personal principles, and values. Seek the truth. Work with Ganesha and see that through meditation, consideration, and self-assessment, the opportunity to evaluate your direction and personal goals awaits you. Your priorities may shift as you develop a deeper perspective. Take this opportunity for some much needed alone time. What we need to know is healing. Or what we need to keep in mind is healing. And it's interesting because healing was at the bottom of the deck at the conclusion of the last video. Healing says, the true essence of your soul is one of complete health. Ganesha is pictured sitting on a peacock. Peacock feathers have been used in curative remedies for thousands of years and across countless traditional cultures. They are said to carry spiritual, medicinal energy that can assist people seeking balance and healing in their lives. The challenges of daily life can throw you out of balance with the truth of your being. It is easy to get caught up in the daily grind and in a general feeling of lack. Remember that you were created from the perfection of divine light and love. Your physical body is simply a shell that covers your soul. True healing is only possible when you take responsibility for your own well-being on this earth and your self-empowerment. When you take responsibility, going back to that, not needing the savior, See yourself as complete, healthy, and whole. Ganesha prompts you to believe that you truly are capable of handling any matters of health or relationships without blame and with integrity and grace. So that's like keep the healing in mind. And it's going to look like inner knowing. I love that it's inner knowing also because if anyone asks me, like, what's 2020 like? I wish this card would come out. Inner knowing, high priestess, like you already know, title card, it ain't for me to tell you, whatever. And that's drive. Inner knowing is drive because it's whatever you create it to be. And if you're not connected to the source of your own strength or power, then you're going to be driven. And it's interesting, not interesting, but I remember back in February or March on the Legacy channel, I was like, no, it was probably January actually, because I remember in January things got quiet spiritually. A lot of people were like, it seems like spirits like kind of sort of not there, or things are a lot quieter than they used to be. And then, 2 months later, it's like, yeah. So, that's not to say that next time spirit goes quiet, get scared. But it's just like it's a what would you do type of space. And a lot of the things that we needed to do, a lot of us already knew. Anyone who I talked to, they already knew. And sometimes we do need like that validation and confirmation from the outside. But yeah, and that's that space of that inner knowing of like already sort of having that clue or that guide or knowing. But with the peacock and the healing, again, it's like something that we have to see and something that can be seen from multiple viewpoints that all stem from the same perspective. And so it's this expanding energy, right? Because the peacock has all the eyes on their feathers, it can see more than just what it sees with its two eyes. And it's both outside of the peacock's vision, but still the peacock's vision at the same time. It's just like these different branches of that peacock, some of them higher, some of them maybe lower. Now let's get into these. What am I doing? Oh, I want to do the little hermit thing. That's what I want to do. Oh, I want to use the LWB. I love this little white book. And like, cause she didn't make the little white book. Like the little white book is not like a copy of the bigger book. I think there's like a medium book too, maybe not. Like the Book of Maps, like this isn't a condensed version of the Book of Maps. So like some of this is pretty unique. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish the Book of Maps said that because here in the LWB it's broken down. It's a little easier to understand. The Book of Maps can be a little whew sometimes. And also I'm not a very I don't do like any rituals or anything. So there's a lot of information that just isn't really pertinent to me. Oh, snap. Oop, 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 oop. I'm excited. I'm excited for that one. One of my faves just uploaded. Excuse me. What was I? OneNote. That's where I'm going. Okay. I want to look at the hermit square. Where is it? Here it is. Who did I skip? I skipped somebody. Strength. I skipped strength. I need to go back and make this strength spread. And I already have a Jupiter spread. And I was like, oh, that's kind of like, oh, no. Well, that could actually be used as a Wheel of Fortune. Maybe I'll use that. No, not really. Okay. All right. So we're going to the Illuminator. Let's see. This is going to be interesting. I've done this spread maybe like a few times, and I've enjoyed it. I have enjoyed it, I will say. You'll be in my heart. And, oh, there's the tower. Cutting to the tower. Actually, I'm not going to use the LWD. I'm not going to use a little white book. So I can take those reading glasses. I just don't feel like wearing those reading glasses right now. So that's why. Oh, the angel and the discerning one. See? See? The archangel commander and the angel. Ew. I think sometimes we can be a little bit impressionable in that, like, we can convince ourselves of a lie if it aligns with like what it is that we want to do, what it is that we already think, what it is that we already feel, or what it is that we already believe. And I think, and again, living life is interesting, but I think it's, in my personal opinion, it's a little unfortunate that it seems that a lot of spiritual people are so quick to accept the default sort of mode of operation or how things have been running when we're coming into this awareness of like this expanded, like it's becoming more and more and more of a thing, like the law of attraction and thoughts become things and mindfulness and things like that. But it's like we still accept the world as it is instead of creating it as we wish for it to be. And particularly in the vein of like things that we can't trust. And we're already in this space and in this time of transition of power anyway, further sort of like exacerbated by the events that have been 2020, able to see things that maybe we weren't able to see before. And it's like instead of using this as an energetic portal to shift structures and to align them in a way that actually serves the people where we don't have to be mistrusting or cautious or whatever. It's like we continue, or it seems that some people would choose to sort of perpetrate the same sort of paradigm. And there's also this question in my mind, at the very least, of like how we expect for things to happen. Like, I don't know. I'll just leave it there. And then the wheel of fortune comes right out. The wheel of fortune comes right out. The wheel of life. It's like it's time to move on to something new. Why are we still perpetrating and carrying on? And it's unfortunate because these are spiritual people. Unfortunate because it's spiritual people because these are people who understand the power of their thought and of their word. And instead of like Archangel Commander using that power to change things, it's like using that power to reinforce what already exists. And on some level, it may be a losing game. And in my mind, it's like, I don't know. It's like if I actually believe all of this, then I'm not going to believe that the only way forward is backwards. Like to move forward and to not be subjected to be taken advantage of by this system or that system or to be whatever, then I got to go off the grid and I got to like, we going back to farming and technology is going to be a thing of the past and all this other kind of stuff. And it's like, if I can create my own reality, why does progress require regress? Like, why do I have to regress to progress? Why can't we just replace what needs to be replaced, mend what needs to be mended, and continue moving forward? I don't know. But that's just how I see it in my mind. it's like, why would I, as someone who believes that I have the power to do this, reinforce a reality that I don't want, continue to give power to things that I don't want to give power to, and buy into the end of the program, doomsday, whatever, that's kind of sort of been marketed. I'm not. I feel like it would be irresponsible for me to do that personally. And like I said, like I'm a very principled person, but I try not to put my principles on other people because I know that a lot of people don't care as much as I do about some of the things that I care about. And that's fine. They don't have to. But in my own life and world and mind, I do. And that's like that thing about the like since the beginning of the year, it was what like February when in this deck the Hierophant, the Holy See kept coming out. And the message in the Holy See was like, don't fall into Hierophant energy. Break the mold, break the pattern. Like the Holy See and the devil, they go hand in hand. You can't have the Hierophant without the devil. And it's like a lot of times we think we're rebelling by doing the opposite, but what you're doing is you're still feeding into that paradigm. And by like saying that you're not feeding into it, it's like it I don't know, it's like you still are. Just because you don't call it what it is doesn't mean that like a rose by any other name is just as sweet, right? So just because you don't call it a rose doesn't make it any less sweet. And the opposite is true too. Roses really smell like boo boo though. That's what they feed. But lean a little bit closer, and roses really smell like boo boo. Lean a little bit closer, and roses really smell like boo boo boo. Yeah, roses really smell like boo boo. Caroline, Caroline, you're the reason for the word. Ooh. Ooh, the politic work. Was that the Emperor? No, it's Strength, the Force. I could have taken it, but the Healer, Aquarius. Oh, the Healer is crying in this deck too. She like, oh goodness. I actually might reorder these. There are a few things that don't really make sense to me. The ordering of the major arcana is one of them. The correspondences for the major arcana is another one of them. The whole like galactic federation doesn't make sense to me because a lot of times people talk about a galactic federation, they're talking about like different galaxies. A galactic federation would be, you know, one composed of different planets in our own galaxy. So like I'm like, isn't that an intergalactic federation? Because it's different galaxies. Anyway, because I'm looking at where this falls, like this spread, and I'm like, this should come earlier. I think this should come earlier. Honestly, I could see the High Priestess being first, just because she has that energy of like something that we receive but we don't even understand. And it's like the High Priestess would be the first person that we encounter. And it's not until we reach the end of the journey that the High Priestess's words make sense. Like that's when we can make sense of it. Like the first thing we hear and the last thing that we come to understand or realize. Anyway, I might do it. And like you don't hide anything in an arcane system or whatever, and like just in plain sight. Like nobody did that back in the day. Nobody. So while you get a piece of the information, you don't get it in its entirety. So it probably is meant to be sort of switched up a little bit. Or maybe that's something that we all do in our own personal lives, right? Because we are the Fool and all of our journeys aren't going to look the same. So we're not necessarily going to come across the same characters in the same order. It's whatever growth and progress looks like for us. Oh, wait. Yes, this one. Oh, I guess we get to. Bottom of the deck is the Shining Dew. I've seen the Shining Dew lately. Knight of Cups energy. The Shining Dew is the only unicorn in this deck, and it's also the twin horse to the Horse of the Reaper. Now, one of these twins is a unicorn and the other twin isn't. Maybe that one had to sacrifice its horn to, I don't know, maybe like Death's Scythe is made or reinforced in some way with the horn of that unicorn. And so that's what would give his scythe the ability to rend something from one sort of plane of existence or realm and to send it to another, because the horn is connected to the third eye. But instead of seeing into multiple dimensions, it has the ability to like tear the fabric between dimensions and then just like push somebody to the other side. Like, okay, yeah, you're not in the land of the living. Boop, you're dead now. But on this horse, it's still attached, biologically attached. So, you know, it has the ability to see. But if it uses its horn, it could probably use its own horn, honestly, to tear space. And that's the world card, creating a new space, exiting one reality and entering another. We have the ability, and it's connected to our vision, right? Because the horn and the eyes are pretty much always going to be pointing in the same direction. Like you can't point the horn in one direction and like your head isn't facing that direction. It's not like a tail or a different appendage where you can like, you know, I can point my arm any other kind of way I want, but the horn follows the head. And so the crown, the third eye, the throat, like all of those are connected. So let's get into this. Long story short, there is this energy of like things being outside of our control, with this being the wheel of life up here. But I don't know if it's necessarily that. I said I wasn't going to use the little white book. We're going to use the little white book. I'll use it for the insight. I love number one. She's making a third edition of this deck, and I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. I pre-ordered this deck. So like when I found Benabel one, I found her because she uploaded a series about Buddhism and Taoism from a Chinese perspective, like historically Chinese perspective. And there was like esotericism versus exotericism. It talked about like when things were burned and gathered, and then it came back, and then it went away again, and stuff like that. And then I discovered that she made a tarot deck. I was like, "What? I want it!" But she said it was sold out, and it was never going to happen again unless she had a reason. And I guess she had a reason to, because in the Vitruvian edition, and I pre-ordered this thing like ASAP as soon as I could. I did. So in what, like January or February of 2018, I pre-ordered it. No, 2019. Wow, so that was like early then, because I just gotten a tarot in like November, like end of November, really December kind of. And then it arrived over the summer, and I'm excited to. She did a third edition, and this edition, she said, is a lot less heavily encoded than the first edition, and the third edition is like lesser heavily encoded in this edition, The first edition was black and white. This one is sepia toned. The third edition is going to be in full color. It's going to feature like different things. I'm excited. Basically, long story short. And it's all stuff that like she does. Like these are hand sort of created, girl. I'm like, okay. Sorry. Anyway, and I love her perspective. She like reads Capricorn. She reads Capricarius to me. Capritarius. Like there are elements of Sagittarius, but also like heavy Capricorn, I think. I don't know what her sign is, but I get like Capricorn and Sagittarius. Typically it was Capricorn. Now it's Sagittarius. I'm like, oh, okay, I can see some Sagittarius in that, honestly. And probably some Scorpio too. Anyway, let's get to the Wheel of Life. Where are the majors? The Wheel of Life is in the second septenary. So let's go to page 15. Oh, look, it's right there. All right. The Wheel of Life. So, when key 10 appears to you, you are at a major turning point in your life. This is the symbol of changing cycles and even the cycles of our mind, how we change our perspective based on the evolution of our experiences. This is also our karma and the law of causation. This is the guardian spirit present during a major shift in your life. So I read this as like there is an energy that is, it's like it's invested in some ways in us getting where it is that we need to be. And so in my own personal life, one of the things that I've come to believe is that we experience things the way that we need to in that moment, even if the experience isn't necessarily true or isn't necessarily right, right? Like misunderstandings happen all the time. Sometimes due to a lack of communication, sometimes. A lot of times, probably due to a lack of communication, but also maybe beyond that, just like communication differences. Because we're all different, we all have our own sort of like lexicons that we walk around with, and we kind of sort of read things differently depending on what our experiences have been. But sometimes it's that misunderstanding that leads us to growth and evolution. And it's like we can grow because of that misunderstanding, but not necessarily lose whatever it was, depending. And so there is this energy, I feel like, of lining things up. It's facilitating this shift to the point where it gets us where we need to be. We have the experience that we need to have to do whatever it is that we need to do. But the work can't be done for us. The growth and the healing and the evolution and the maturing can't be done for us. All spirit can really do is provide us with the opportunity, and the rest is on us. And maybe that's what this shining dew is talking about. It's about us turning our head because, like, with the ebony shield is behind it. The ebony shield, this would be the energy of like us sort of being dominated by what we experience on Earth. This is Earth sort of gatekeeping and like feeding us. Like, look, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Yes, with the angel temperance behind it. And that's about understanding the balance between the earth and beyond the earth. He's looking back at the apple that she is holding. That's us not looking at spirit, not looking at the grander picture, but looking at the manifestation of the higher, more subtle energies. This is us being ruled by the earth. Like, oh, like the person hasn't come back to me yet. I haven't gotten the money yet. I didn't get the job. I didn't get this. I didn't get that. Manifestation. It's all crock. I'm gonna stop my healing. I don't care. And it's like, girl, it was never about the stuff in the first place. Honestly, the stuff comes with it. But like, if you focus on spirit, you get the stuff. You don't have to be consumed by getting the stuff to get the stuff. Wow. I've never like I was feeling that. And then I was like, wait, the horse is looking back at the apple. I'm shook. Anyway, but that it's in the space of change. And so I guess we can ask ourselves how, like, knowing how much you valued the things that you valued and how invested you were in the things that you were invested in, what would it take to get you to let those things go, to be open to whatever is next for you? What would it take? Because I know for me to reach the point where I'm at right now, it took me thinking that I had no future. It took me losing my, like, one of my only means of coping and escapism and distraction, and feeling that, like, really feeling that despair without anything to run to distract myself from it. It took all of that to get me to the point where I started to heal and face and address the things that were ailing me deeply on a energetic soul sort of spiritual level. And the soul level is interesting because it's like there's this piece of the soul that we sort of live with, and then there's this greater fraction of the soul, right? So the piece of the soul that rests within me, that the piece of the soul that I was consciously connected to, that little fragment of all of who I am, was despairing because of this. But there's another part that knew that that didn't have to be the case. And so I had to connect more and more and more and more to the part of my soul that existed beyond the limitation of what the experience of my eyesight and my declining eyesight was giving me. And once I started, like, that is what led to everything else. And that's why we don't chase the earth finds us. Anyway. Um, and so, like, I know that I had to experience something that difficult to get where I am today. And for some people, like, government, like, collectively, it probably took 2020 and everything that's happened for us to, especially in America, to begin to have actual conversations about things like universal health care, right? And how maybe it's not a great idea that your healthcare is tied to the job that you're working, because a lot of people lost their jobs and now they can't afford the healthcare. A lot of people were probably thinking that, like, I shouldn't have to pay, like, my tax dollars shouldn't have to go to giving insurance to whoever, blah, 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 whatever. But now that you lost your job and you don't have health insurance, now you're in a place where you can empathize and where you can understand. We basically had to be brought to this point of being humbled. We basically had to be humbled to begin to understand some things. But because this year is what this year is, a lot of people are in the space of deciding that it will not be the same moving forward, and that we may not necessarily know how things will change or what to change, but we know that something has to change. A lot of things have to change. And that's gorgeous. And it probably honestly took this to get us here. And I think that's why, like, this is outside of us, but also it isn't. Gorgeous. So next, let's see. Ooh, the Chariot. Talk about drive. Talk about that Chariot energy. Oh my gosh. Lux et Veritas. Did I not? Did I? That wasn't on this channel. Okay, give me 1 second, y'all. I gotta show you. Oh, I gotta show y'all something. Hold up, hold up. Y'all see this? Lux et Veritas. Oop, oop. There goes the LWB on the floor. LWB is on the floor. Oh, goodness. I can't wait till I get a bigger space. Hopefully cards don't fall on the floor and I see them on the desk. Veritas. It means truth. This is a medal I got from Latin class, and it has the goddess of spring on it. Talk about Wheel of Fortune. Talk about new life. What else is on here? She's holding a lyre. Things are blooming. The lyre is interesting because instead of a horn for judgment, it's like another instrument. It reminds me of Aziraphale, the angel of song, and the Angelarium Oracle of Emanations. And it's like, she sort of heralds the ending of one world and the beginning of another, and how there are things that linger in the song. But anyway, And I only mentioned that because I showed my keychains on the Legacy channel yesterday at some point when I was just ranting and rambling about my own personal life. And I was like, yeah, it says Veritas. There was another one, Aude Sapere, that had Pallas Athena or Minerva on it, Dare to be Wise. It was her and her owl, and she had on her like battle helmet. And then there was another one, I can't remember what was on the front, but it said Nolite Hoot in Ire, and it's don't go in there. So maybe instead of don't go in there, it's like don't go back. Dare to be wise and seek the truth, or live your truth. So let's look at the chariots. I just saw this too when I was looking for the Wheel of Life because I remember seeing Luke's. No, that was the erudite. Never mind. So the chariot. The chariot is the spirit that helps you create change. Helps you create change. You have attained a certain mastery of knowledge, and now you must determine how you will use that knowledge to innovate. The chariot is an omen that you're gaining momentum. You possess mastery of knowledge and skills that now drive you farther along your path. When the chariot card appears, you have arrived at a critical milestone and are in active movement toward victory. Success will come to the one who refuses to stop fighting. Keep going. Now, this is the end of the first septenary, and the first septenary is integrating the self. The Wheel of Life is not necessarily halfway through the second septenary, which is integrating the cosmos. And then, if you're curious, the third septenary is integrating spirit, I think. Let's see. Integrating the divine. And a septenary is a group of seven. That's the septenary. And the major arcana is broken down into three septenaries because there's 21 cards. 21 divided by 7 is 3. You don't count the Fool because the Fool is like us in that journey, and these are the journey. Okay, so there is this inner light that in the time of darkness, it's getting stronger. Its pull is getting stronger. But again, it kind of sort of depends on how we handle things. And in some ways, and it's not an all or nothing type of situation, right? It's like we could have aligned to our light more in this area, but maybe not so much in another area. And it may be a navigation of like, because we always follow the path of least resistance. And so there was a lot less resistance in this area. And after we get this done, this is the next path of least resistance. And then this one, and then this one, and then that one. And eventually we end up at the one thing that kind of sort of holds the most change or holds the most. It's like our biggest blockage holds the most release. And I remember last year feeling that. Like I took my path of least resistance. It started with my eyes, and then it ended up with like family. It started like family was one of the first things, and then it was like my eyes, and then it was more and more spirituality. Then it branched into some friendships, and then when it came to relationships and dealing with my relationship anxieties, like I knew that that was a huge blockage for me and that working through that would be a major release. And behind that release hid some of the things that I really wanted, and not just a relationship, but that vulnerability and that openness and that connectedness. And then another thing that I knew was huge, but that I never necessarily thought I would come into was owning the power of my voice. Now that happened this year um, because of some of the 2020 stuff, with the whole George Floyd. No, it kind of started with George Floyd. And no, it was a buildup because first it was like all the COVID stuff, and then it was George Floyd. And then it was some of the spiritual people that I saw on YouTube who were talking about like the astrology and other things. And it's like, oh, it's all an illusion. Like none of it is like real. None of it really matters. It's all just like orchestrated and done this way to get you to blah 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 whatever. And for me, it just like that was about the point in time where there were things that I wanted to be said, but no one else was saying them. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll do it myself. Now, fortunately, I had felt tapped to create art tapped. I well, kind of, yeah, I did. I did. I felt tapped to change my channel name back in March. And so I already had this channel before all of that started. And so this channel was a safer space for me to like get used to at least saying it. And I was like, on the legacy channel for a minute, it was like all like, fairly surface-ish level. And over here, it was like, this is where I was like, bah! And then gradually things sort of shifted. Because now over here, it seems that the energy is a lot lighter. And over there, it's like the energies that I pick up are a lot heavier. But that's not surprising because this is a platform where I use my voice. And so, since this is the platform where I engage my voice authentically and truly the most, this would be the platform in which I experience more of the change of energies. Because this is a platform where I actually addressed it. That's the platform where I kind of sort of avoided it. So now it's like they're getting, or at least on that side, it's getting a lot of the heat. And in the beginning, I was like, oh, I don't want to be this high all the time. Like, I miss when I could just come live and like have fun. But also at the same time, I want to make sure I'm living in a world where, it's Gucci and everything is copacetic, yeah, where everything is copacetic. I learned that word in like high school, girl. She was on a vocab quiz. Hey Siri, define copacetic.
Copacetic is an informal term. It means in excellent order.
Yep, in excellent order. I want everything to be copacetic. And I got to speak to it. But anyway, that's what this chariot energy kind of sort of reminds me of. It's the light, like calling to us more and more and more, kind of sort of calling to us more and more and more, kind of sort of it just looking more appealing because everything else is so dark. And this is Cancerian energy. Cancer is like, it's a crab, can be a hermit crab, right? So it's like, instead of us going into hermit mode, some of us, and things were exceptionally difficult. So it's like if you were already avoiding things to begin with, 2020 probably didn't get you to start addressing it. It probably just completely took you under. Um, but again, it was an opportunity to reach that breaking point. Some people reached their breaking points in 2020, and some people finally opened their eyes to things in 2020, and some people began to do things and set their lives right and themselves right in 2020, or are in the space of doing that as we come out of 2020. Because that experience, again, it's like, what has to happen to get us to finally address these things, to get us to finally move, to get us to finally heal? And I think, again, it's like the understanding. I feel like that would be a very helpful approach. Now, I think it'll be a helpful approach if someone is more sort of spiritually aligned, or at the very least believes that everything happens for a reason. I don't think that's necessarily helpful for someone who is currently going through something and is consumed in that thing. I don't think it would be very helpful at all, honestly. Or at least it doesn't seem like that's something that would be helpful to someone who is consumed by whatever it is that they're going through. It's like that's one of the last things that they want to hear because it sucks in the moment. Like, who wants to hear that? But for some people, it may bring comfort. Anyway, I think this is emphasizing that, like, that misfortune happened for a reason. And at the very least, with this chariot down here, we can make sure that it happened for a reason. Next, maybe I will keep this here. I don't know. Ooh, we got the stronghold of the grail, of the stronghold of the veil, and the stronghold of the grail. Okay. So, Stronghold of the Grail. There's a message here that speaks to us. I think there's been a part, especially because if, yeah, especially with the politic being here, I think there was a part of our shadow that wanted to be released because there is this universal, or at least it's global, there's this global energy of release and healing and shadow work, bringing things to the surface so that it can be addressed. And because it's happening globally and across many, 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 many different communities and many, 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 many different ways, it's like there are also things on the inside. It's like it's coming up to be addressed. Because, like, I believe, or at least within myself, it's been my experience that, like, that part of me that was trapped in the past and in despair and things like that, that I would contribute to parts of my shadow, that didn't want to be stuck there either, but it didn't have a way out. And so, oh snap, Cassie' birthday is tomorrow. She a Capricorn. I'm not surprised. She's the girl. So on the Legacy channel last night, if you heard my rant, so the person who I got closer to senior year of high school because we were going to the same college, who became the mutual friend of my best friend, her birthday is tomorrow. I talked about her yesterday, and no, like her birthday is tomorrow. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. Um, like there are things that like the shadow wants to be released of, but the shadow doesn't have the power to do it itself because it's the shadow, and the light can't do it. We have to do it. We have to be what unites that. We have to turn these wheels and do all of this stuff. So it's like the light is wanting to cooperate with the shadow. The shadow is trying to cooperate, or the shadow is trying to communicate that it wants to be purged and released of these things that it's been subjected to in the politic. The Three of Wands is where they come together. And when they come together, it aligns everything. It's like you need the key of light and the key of shadow to unlock the door. Going back to the Hierophant, I guess. But what Hierophant energy does is it tells us it like the Hierophant energy dictates what is light and what is shadow. Not only does it dictate what is light and what is shadow, it also dictates what our relationship to those two things should be. And so it gets us to demonize these sort of parts of ourselves that don't necessarily need to be demonized. And then like we push that further into the shadow, further into the cold, further into the dark, and further into the abyss. And then it also teaches us what to emphasize with that light. And so what it does is it increases the chasm of disparity between those two. And it reduces our ability to sort of reconcile them. And it also does so by like it removes us from our shadow at the same time, right? Like the shadow is something that you take to somebody else. Like just take it there, just take it there, just take it there. And so maybe that's another reason why our ability to actually handle things has been impacted. And Hierophant energy is great for getting us to like it's great as a support system, as a pillar. Like a lot of people will say their faith and their religion and their spirituality is what keeps them through the difficult times and the hard times. But I think some of the greatest messages, things like faith without works is dead, and like if you have well, yeah, in some ways, if you have faith the size of a grain of a mustard seed, and if you tell a mountain to move, it will move. It's like there's the back end of it that is the work, right? We're not just giving it to God and then like rinsing our hands of it and not doing anything else with it. we give it to God so that spirit can work with us as we work through this. And the politic being the understanding between them. In this card, I guess I can read it. I'll read both of these because I've been reading everything else. Bottom of the deck, I haven't shuffled it yet, so it's still the shining dew. But in the politic, it's like different people coming together to experience the same vision. In the kindred, it's different people coming together but experiencing their own vision. In the kindred, each of the empresses are looking into their own cup, divining their own sort of path using what hydromancy. Here, in the space of pyromancy, it's three emperor energies, each with their own staff of prophecy, but gazing into the same fire. And so there is also like this space where the individual is related to the collective. And I would hear things like that. And I also believe things like that, but that connection, like a lot of connections are two-way streets. And so a lot of times, if we work on the individual, it will also be reflected out onto the collective. But since that is a two-way street, at the same time, it's like, well, if we ignore the collective, then we're also ignoring parts of the individual. And we have to bring all of that together to really solidify our understanding to the point where we can drive our lives in a way like where we can more fully exist in a sun magician energy instead of a moon magician energy or a star magician energy. Being like our understanding. And was that the chariot? The power of our understanding and knowledge? I think it was. It's like when we expand our understanding, we expand sort of our domain. And if we're only focused on the individual, if we only value and honor the individual, if we ignore everything outside of us, then it's like we only create what the universe is already ready to create because there's no communication happening. And when we open up our understanding more and more and more, we can create more and more because we more fully enter that conversation and we're more present in that conversation between what we want, what we feel guided to do, what our purpose is, what we feel led to do, and what the world is needing. And then it's like when you're in connection and when you're in communication, you can also compromise. And compromise not necessarily by means of like both parties leave like partially fulfilled or not entirely fulfilled. Compromise and like I will fulfill you in this way and you fulfill me in this way. And so we both leave completely fulfilled because we ensure that not only are we being fulfilled, but the other is being fulfilled, right? And it's like if it takes me like if you ask me for help and I need help from you and like there's this minor inconvenience that I need from you and there's a minor inconvenience that you need from me, then like yeah, like I'd do that, no problem. It's not like, oh well, I don't feel like doing that, so I'll give you this much. Oh well, I don't feel like doing that either, so I'll give you this much, and you both walk away with like 25% because you weren't willing to be minorly inconvenienced to make sure you get that 100% fulfillment. It's more self-centered. Excuse me. Let me read this stronghold. Oh, there's the knight. Look, the Knight of Chalices, the shining dew. I opened right to it. That means I'm getting close. Oh, I gotta pee. I need to stop drinking this water. And my throat just went out. I'm not clearing it. So you better clear yourself. Hello. Stronghold of the Grail. The Stronghold of the Grail comes bearing an important message to you or an opportunity about matters relating to love, relationships, domestic affairs, or your spiritual path. I'm going to my throat. Ew, that's gross. That's gross. I was digging around in my room and I think I kicked up some dust. Oh, I need to go through this room and dust. And so since yesterday, it's just been like lingering. I'm like, yeah. Anyway, sorry. Back to this. So I'll start from the top. The stronghold of the Grail comes bearing an important message to you or an opportunity about matters relating to love, relationship, domestic affairs, or your spiritual path. The Page of Chalices is the stronghold here to help you become better attuned to your emotions. Oh, there's a typo. There's not a lot of them. I'm sorry. I did not have to do all that. But anyway, helping you in your pursuit of true happiness. She appears to you when you need further guidance on your path to finding your personal Holy Grail. The presence of the stronghold of the Grail can also be an emissary sent by a lunar deity, a divinity of the waters, of medicine, or a pantheon from the northern hemisphere. So, talking about that spiritual path. I gotta go to the restroom. I'll be right back. I'm sorry, but I do. Those are my reading glasses. I still left the sticker on this one because I got two pairs and they looked similar enough in the beginning. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to differentiate one from the other. And then, like, now I know the difference. One of them is rounder, the other is more. Okay, I'm back. I should have cleared my throat when I was up there. Didn't even think about that. Maybe I should just drink more tea. Maybe this is something to get me to drink more tea. Because yesterday, and it's like the temperature is dropping. I don't have a humidifier, so it's not great. But I had some tea yesterday. It was pretty good. I'll probably make some more tea after this. Okay, all right, back to this. So the unified self, at whatever level that happens, is a combination of our light and our dark. And we have to experience a certain amount of what is it? It's this thing. So what it is, it feels like we're trying to build a body. We're trying to live as a body, as a conscious body, where our consciousness is fully present in every element of the body. And so it's like you have to live your liver. You have to live your heart. You have to live your spleen. You have to live all of these different things. Some people would call it vestigial. Some people would say, "Oh, like you don't even really need that anymore. We don't even know why we still have these. Let me just take it." Like, okay. Um, and then after you live all of these separate things, you come into the experience of that unified body. And the archangel of healing is the king of this suit. And so it's like that's why we live our shadow and we live our light and we live the gradation between the two extremes. So that when we bring it all together, it becomes like multichromatic. But like simultaneously. And that's interesting because I talked about that recently. It might have been for Aries, but it was this energy of like white light is the existence of every color in the visible spectrum being present at once. But it was like every color in the visible spectrum being present at once, but still being able to be differentiated from each other. Kind of sort of like a rainbow, but more fluid. And it's light, right? So it's not necessarily pigmented. It's not something that we paint or create, or it's not something where we strategically place, or maybe it is, honestly, something where we strategically place these different things that all absorb and transmit a different spectrum. But maybe instead of absorbing or transmitting a different piece of the spectrum, they absorb or transmit everything, but it's just influenced or emphasized more. Some things are emphasized more. So if it looks redder, that's because it reflects more red light, but it still absorbs red light. It's just like it absorbs red the least and the entirety of everything that it absorbs. So it looks redder. But at the same time, it still takes in that red light. A lot of times when we look at pigmentation, it's like we basically assume that it absorbs nothing red if it looks red. And that's why it looks red to us, because it takes everything else, right? It's just like if you think someone is stingy because they never give you anything. Like that's a color, basically. They take everything else. Hold on, wait. Is that right? No. Maybe I lost that analogy. But it's like if you assume that someone is only into a certain thing because that's all they ever talk to you about, but they have other interests. Anyway, something like that. I got lost in the metaphor a little bit. You get it. You get it. Anyway, moving forward, I am going to pull a message though, or a clarifier for this. The strongholds, you see the letter, they come with messages. So, what is the message of the stronghold of the Grail? What is her message? Oop, okay, almost. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay. It's what I said. It's the Four of Wands. It's the darkness wanting to work with the light. It's the shadow wanting to work with the light. It's the restoration of that relationship. And the Six of Wands, the champion right here. Now, altogether, there is this Ten of Wands energy. Look, there's another stronghold of the Zephyrs. There is this Ten of Wands energy, but it's like partially in the responsibility, it's partially in the difficulty of reconciling this relationship. And partially because Hierophant energy has played the role that it's played, and also because Devil energy has played the role that it's played because of Hierophant energy. Again, you can't have one without the other. And so, wait, shouldn't. So, I'm going to say that if I had to rework it, yeah, the world would be Saturn, the Hierophant would be Capricorn, and the Devil would be Aquarius. Maybe. I don't know. Because, like, the Devil and the Hierophant It's two sides of the same coin. So they would share the same planetary rulership. And Saturn feels to be the most appropriate. So I guess between the Hierophant and the Devil, which one is more Uranian? That would be the Aquarius one. Yeah, I'd say that the Devil is Aquarius and the Hierophant is Capricorn, because Capricorn is cardinal, and I see the Hierophant being the more cardinal energy out of the Devil, and um, the Hierophant and the Devil is kind of sort of more the result of the Hierophant, I feel, than the other way around. But also, there is that energy of like Hierophant energy coming to be to explain the existence of devils at the same time. I don't know, but like the Hierophant, the devil in the world, they like it feels like between the Hierophant and the devil, like it exists the world. Like that's what they try to establish dominion over and explain. It's the world. Anyway, okay, back to this. Sorry. Here's this Four of Wands. Shadow side messages, it's bringing Four of Wands. It's wanting that, look, we see two of them. We see the warrior and we see the holy lady. And they're coming together. They're both supporting this wheel. Oh my gosh, the demiurge. And the demiurge is one who basically creates their own reality, or who has some role over creating reality. I think a lot of times I've heard it's typically been in a negative context. Not that I've heard the word demiurge a lot. Demiurge, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm pretty sure it's demiurge, but it might not be. Yeah, this is that card of cooperation between the two. And look, and the light is coming out with the chariot. It's like it's ready to move forward, but they have to be equally yoked. And being equally yoked doesn't necessarily mean 50-50. It means that whatever your path, your journey, your enlightenment calls for more of in that time, you give what is appropriate. Right? So let's say that, speaking of Capricorn, let's say that you're enterprising and there's something that you're trying to build off of the ground that the world is in desperate need of, and that need has been illuminated this year because of everything that's been happening. I mean, like, it's been a growing need, but because everything happened the way it happened, it's like, okay, like, we need to roll this out ASAP. And so you have to get into more of that sort of self mode where you have to exert more than you sort of receive, right? And so both the light and the shadow can exert, and both of them can receive, but that shadow exertion is being maybe a little less compromising. And it's not that it's not being compromising, but it's that like you hold a more significant role in the creation of this thing, right? And like I was talking about earlier about like when it was like save your money because something might come up, right? Like the shadow side person would be the one that's like, we already have the people, we already have the framework. All we need from you is money. Like that's all we need from you. And if you can't give us money, like we don't really need any input outside of that. That would be like sort of the shadowy exertion part of that. Maybe it gets like again, because like I grown up in Hierophant systems, and Hierophant systems are kind of sort of all that there is in a way. If you look at the definition of Hierophant, even some non-Hierophant energies are still Hierophant energies, or have become Hierophant energies. There's lots of Hierophants on this platform. Once you gain a certain following, and it's almost like kind of sort of regardless, once you gain a certain following, you're in that Hierophant energy. But depending on how you utilize that would really determine, from my limited perspective, if you're in the Hierophant energy or not. And it's how you talk about everyone forming their own individual spiritual connection, or how you encourage everyone forming their own individual spiritual connection, that determines sort of like how close to Hierophant energy you get. Some people probably unintentionally or undesiringly become hierophants, where other people just become overly dependent on them, where instead of like facilitating that connection and helping establish that connection, sometimes we use that to replace the connection. And, like we all, like we're human, we all learn and we all grow. And, external validation is something that we need, probably a lot of us, until we get to the point where it's been validated enough where we can more fully trust what we get individually and within ourselves. Anyway, blah, 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 whatever. This is amazing. This is what I was talking about. And it puts us in a place of victory here. The chariot spoke of victory. On the path to victory, well, there's the champion, there's the Six of Wands. The Six of Wands in this deck is also the fulfillment of a prophecy, but it didn't happen the way that we thought, because it was prophesied that a new crown prince would be found, but they actually got a crown princess instead of a prince. So pretty much the same, but with that minor detail. And I think that's also an energy that's kind of sort of here of like, maybe we can, like, it's like we get enough of the picture to know that something will precipitate something else. But maybe we overly attribute the something else to the thing that precipitates the other thing. Right? To the point where that original thing isn't significant in the way that we would project it to be, because it doesn't do what we think it'll do. It sets the stage for everything else to be done because of what it did or because of what it didn't do. And now, because of that, this other thing will happen. Now, this other thing happening is what we're actually attached to. We just misattribute it or misattribute it to this thing over here because this precipitates that. If that makes any sense. If not, then hey. Anyway, so then we have the politic, which is that middle ground in between them where they're working on the same page. I love that for clarification that this is happening. And we have to work through our own minds and hearts and souls what is light and what is shadow, and what does it mean for shadow to cooperate with light and things like that. Because if you think shadow is like people like robbing people and like crime rate, basically, like if you think embracing shadow, like crime rates are going to go up all over the place, then I don't know, that's a paradigm that you have to work through or work with. That's a paradigm you have to work with. That's not the one that I subscribe to, and I'm not necessarily here to convince anybody of anything. I just say it how I see it or how it's coming to me. Okay, so next, I love this because this means that they're both on the same page. But this also means with the Page of Cups, the stronghold of the Grail being here instead of over here, it feels like there's a desire for shadow energy to cooperate. And I think I sort of referenced it before. Like there's the desire here, but shadow energy doesn't know how to do it. There's no protocol for cooperating with the light in this way because it's never happened before. I would say it's interesting to put out there, but I would say that although shadow energy may be at a disadvantage because of how that relationship typically worked in the past, it's not for it to like discredit itself in what it can do, in the good that it can do, just because it's never done good by us before. And so I guess I say that to you. Whatever qualities that you have that you sort of relegate to the shadow, just because you haven't used those qualities in a productive way before, doesn't mean that those qualities don't have a place in getting you to where you want to be in a productive way. You're going to be finding and discovering that. And that's also the thing about this politic, like this meeting of the minds. It's like, you have the light on one side, you have the shadow on the other side, and then you have the, I guess, source in the middle. You have the unified whole before it's split apart in the middle, and they're all coming together working for this. working on this. Anyway, okay, moving forward. This is cool. So this up here is our understanding of this down here. So up here, where we have the chariot, we also have the healer. Wanted to say temperance, but the star, the healer, is pouring equally onto the ground as she is into the water, nurturing both of these, the ground and the water. This is the light being used to balance the shadow. And at the same time, the shadow will balance the light in by way of like maybe not being like overextending, not being overly giving, by giving people and situations the opportunity to sort of balance themselves instead of us holding them to these idealized sort of versions and being sort of like unrelenting and unceasingly forcing whatever onto that, right? The shadow will give the light. And again, it's like once you reach this sort of point where they're working together, I think it would probably become a lot harder to differentiate one from the other. But it's like there's one, I don't know, it feels like the light is trying to be controlling, honestly, because it's the light is structure and the shadow is chaos. And so there's a certain need for to allow things to play out the way that they will play out, basically. And the shadow is going to be what encourages the light to let it play out because that's what lets it grow, right? If we were constantly subjected to sunlight all the time, if it was never night, then the whole nocturnal cycle of growth and expansion and of life would be lost. And then maybe we would end up with something more like a desert. And there are things that grow in deserts, but there are a lot of things that don't. And we know that because, our planet is gracious enough, spirit and God was gracious enough to create and place us on a place where we see that many, many, many different things grow in many, 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 many different environments. And the beauty, and like there is beauty in that sort of diversity. But that's what this healer is. This healer is like it's mending this relationship between these two. But I don't like with the healer. Well, I guess we have the page over here. From the healer's perspective, though, it looks like light doing everything for the dark. And then it looks like the dark has nothing to offer the light. The dark has no way to grow or improve or mature the light when that's not the case. And maybe that's also why the shadow is in this energy of like not fully being able to stand in the power of its presence in a more positive way, because everything that Hierophant energy has traditionally labeled as double energy. And some of it isn't, especially when we start talking about, societal norms and things like that. What is considered depraved? Like back in the day when you couldn't mix fibers or whatever, but now we all wear these like blends of clothings and fabrics. And we kind of sort of pick and choose what's most convenient for our lives or what's the least inconvenient. So like we throw some things out and whatever sort of like uh what's the word? Whatever supports the biases that we have, and like we keep those things. It's like, okay. You can just say that like, this you ain't for this. You ain't gotta bring in like spirit into this. Anyway. So on the other side, we have this page of Pentacles, the Stronghold of the Grail. Oh my gosh, I didn't read any of these. I didn't read any of these. Oh, the Empress is on the bottom of the deck. Okay, creation. That's that mama energy. See, this is like divine Empress energy though, because both the light and the dark go into the Empress and they're born as something new. So this is beyond and above kind of sort of what we create and beyond and above like masculine and feminine. This is that which gave birth to the light and the dark in the first place. It's this one in the middle that oversees facilitates not facilitates. I feel like it oversees more than anything. I think it's letting the light and the dark kind of sort of figure itself out. Or that's what it's going to feel like at the very least. So let's go to the politic. I need somewhere to like mark this thing up. The realm of threes, page 32. That's 49. Okay, let's go for the politic. The politic, three of scepters. The politic is an omen validating glory achieved through diplomacy, tact, pragmatism, and prudence. The three of scepters portends expedient success. This is the spirit of ingenuity and wielding your personal brilliance, social intelligence, and psychic dexterity to successfully navigate complicated social or political situations. This is the spirit of established strength by your side. Here, we also see powerful allies supporting you in your endeavor. I forgot to read the Four of Wands. Sorry. That's why I didn't read this before, because I wanted to read both of these. And then I forgot. I get to it in the time that it's meant to be gotten to. So, it all happens in its own time. The Four of Scepters, the Demiurge. This builds our physical platform of success. This is the attending spirit who guides your intangible idea into tangible work product in the material world. The demiurge marks progress, achievement attained, and is the spirit presence with you through a momentous rite of passage. A rite of passage, interesting. The demiurge is the spirit to help you call from the spiritual or intellectual plane and bring perfected work into form on the physical plane. And I read something, it was a card in the Wisdom of Lord Ganesha. It had to be healing because that's the only one I got yesterday and today. And it said, like, you were created from the perfected. Like, you are, like, perfected love and light or something like that. Or, like, your body is the shell of perfected love and light or something like that. And here again, it's about bringing the spiritual into the physical, where the physical holds the framework for it. Now, also, the shadow is the vessel through which we hold light, right? Like if we had a drink, like the cup, the shadow is the cup, the light is the liquid. And so if our shadow is sort of like weak or absent or incapacitated in some way, our ability to hold and maintain this light and to give shape and form to the light is impacted as well. But it's almost like this, like, you're nothing without me type of energy. Maybe not necessarily, but I guess it did come when that's not the case. But it's like now that this energy is so used to like being at detriment or being the bad, it doesn't know how to do anything else. Now, up at the Empress level, it does, because there it's inseparable from the light. But again, personally, I believe duality is something that runs up the chain. I think it exists above the 5D, but it's our relationship with it that is different. I don't know. That's just my personal belief. Now, moving back to the star, or the healer, sorry, moving back to the healer. This is in the third septenary. You have overcome a brutal yet necessary trial in your life, and now your holy guardian angel returns to heal your battle wounds. The healer appears to mend what was broken. Capex Dei, capable of receiving the divine, talking about the shadow being, the vessel through which we hold light. The mind is formed in the image of God, and in that it is capable of divinity. Your capacity of holding divinity within you is now being revealed. The goblets pour forth hope and faith. Hope and faith in yourself that you are capable of greatness. I laugh because I just watched a movie day before yesterday. There was this girl named Faith, and someone else called her Hope. She's like, my name is Faith. It's funny. Or that was interesting. Key 17, synchronicity. Sorry, I don't know why key. Oh yeah, because key, that's why, duh. I was like, I don't know why key is a synchronicity. I don't know why key is a synchronicity. Oh, wait, that's the backside. I don't know why key is a synchronicity. And when I went to the bathroom, I was literally just thinking about this key. And also, because what did I ask? I was talking to one of my buddies, and I asked him, I was like, what's the emoji for. What did I ask? What did I say? Because there's an emoji for synchronicities. Um, and then he sent the key emoji. Let's see. What did I send though? I don't remember. The divine timing emoji. That's what it is. I sent an egg timer. He sent the key. So that's what the key is. It's the divine timing emoji. But it's like the when divine timing comes to pass, like when it happens, not like when we're still waiting for it. Anyway, key 17 is the star of the Magi, and when the healer appears to you, the fragments of your broken world will be healed. This is the omen of restoration, of rebuilding, salving, and alleviating your pains. When the healer is making her presence known to you, it is the prophecy that a blessing is soon to be conferred. And I talked about the Six of Wands being the prophecy of the Six of Wands relating the prophecy. Here, actually, in the politic Three of Wands, they're coming together to get the prophecy. Like this is where they receive the prophecy of the new crowned prince. But it turns out through the course of events that the crowned prince is a princess. So it's like it may not necessarily work out exactly how we plan, but in the long run, those changes in the prophecy may actually work out better than what we originally perceived. And again, sort of going back to what I said about sometimes we experience things the way that we need to experience them rather than experiencing them the way that they are. And it's not necessarily that the divine is like lying to us. It's that it's a journey, it's progressive, right? So now moving over to this with the Page of Pentacles, this was the shadow letting us know that it wants to work with us. This feels like proof. Like this is like I want to work with you. This is I'm gonna prove it. But I don't know how that happens. Maybe it's not for me to know. It probably isn't. But this is supposed to be like our understanding of what's already happened. Maybe instead of that, oh, wait, is this? I've never noticed this animal before. What is that? What's that? And his mouth is open. Is this like some kind of wolf howling at the moon type of energy? But the moon is the earth. Are there are there wolves on the moon that howl at the earth earthrise or whatever? It looks like a full earth tonight. I mean that probably happens though, right? Because the moon is close enough to Earth that you could probably see it. I mean, I'm assuming if you can see the moon from Earth, you can see Earth on the moon. Um, so depending on where the moon is, and depending on where the Earth is, and how it's sort of like tilted on its axis or rotated or whatever, it may be like fuller some days than it is other days, depending on the relationship between the sun, the moon, and the Earth. Maybe I need to work out my relationship with Earth because I'm like, ooh, what does full Earth mean? Some kind of natural disaster? Like, oh, the humans are about to mess it up again. Stop. That's the old story. We're gonna get it right. That's what I've been believing that we're gonna get it right. I mean, I kind of sort of have to, but I also see it for us, honestly. Okay, so this, I think this is what the shadow has to offer us. This is what, like, because we know that like light brings healing to the shadow. That's what like we sort of characterize shadow work as, or that's what it can be characterized as. There may be many, many, many different definitions of shadow work, but it's bringing healing to the shadow. The shadow gives us the ability to more directly influence our experience here on earth because it is typically the denser part of us. It's the part that's typically more grounded to the experience that we're having rather than the totality of who we are. And it's like since it's closer to the ground, like that's what it does. Because even seeds start in the darkness, right? You plant a seed in the ground and then it grows until it breaches the light. For animals that have eggs, they start in the darkness until they break out the shell. For animals that have live birth, they start in the darkness of the womb before they exit the birth canal. Everything starts in darkness. So it would kind of make sense that the darkness holds the power, or a lot of power, in the ease of transitioning things into being. But it doesn't necessarily do it alone. Oh, yeah, and that resonates, or that typically aligns with what we hear about the light and the shadow, right? That's why it's like, oh, they're like low vibrational. All they care about is money and all these physical things and blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, okay, it's the ego. It's more concerned with like typically we say we attribute it to things of like pleasures and things like that. Whereas the light is the higher mind, like, oh, I've matured. I don't care about things like food or sex or whatever anymore. All I need is the breath in my body that I exchange with the universe around me. And it's like, okay, work, cool, fine. If that's your path, that's your path. But also, like, we don't have to neglect the world around us that we've been gifted with in order to reach or attain whatever level, right? That's kind of sort of more hierophant mumbo jumbo, not mumbo jumbo, but that's kind of sort of more hierophant propaganda that gets us to demonize more and more and more, like to the point where we can't even enjoy our physical experiences and lives, right? Back to the Quaker days, the Quakers and the Shakers, when we talk about what colonial America, when they were like, oh, like no dancing, no music, no joy. It's like, okay, but I think we were meant to enjoy some of life. Now, when we balance that with light and going back to the solar plexus chakra, then it's like, well, what actually nurtures us? What actually sustains us? What are some of the things that we indulge in that maybe we overly indulge in? And for you, it may not be an overindulgence. For others, it might be. That's on you. And it's, I mean, you determine for yourself what that is. And you can see how it influences or how it impacts your life. And if that's something that you're okay with, then hey, you know. So let's get into the stronghold of the veil, Page of Orbs. The stronghold of the veil comes bearing an important message to you or an opportunity about your assets and resources, money or business matters, and that which relates to your personal economics and industry. When the stronghold of the veil appears in a reading, the offer, events, or opportunities to come are ones that will help you to make your mark in your world. These are the opportunities for establishing yourself. Perhaps there is a mundane matter you are facing at the moment or will face. The Page of Orbs may appear to you to offer insights on how best to navigate that situation. The stronghold of the veil appears when you need to hear whispers of counsel on what measures to take next. Of all the pages, she is most connected to the everyday ongoings of your world, of mortal and earthly life. She also appears to guide you through shadow work. The presence, because the Archangel of Mysteries is the king in this deck, so that makes sense. This one is related to healing. This one is related to mysteries, which is shadow work, which is bringing light to dark spaces. and also bringing darkness to light spaces because she has the ability to like transverse all realms. Here's the page from the angel that has the ability to transverse all realms. And I talked about that when the horn of the unicorn was there and like rending and cutting through dimensions, basically creating portals where there weren't any. And then just like pushing things from one side to the other, moving things from spiritual to physical, or from physical to spiritual, if we're talking about that, I guess. I don't know. Okay. The presence of the stronghold of the veil can also be an emissary sent from the underworld, a divinity of the earth, vegetation, a divinity of wealth, a liminal deity, one of crossholds, thresholds, and gateways, or a pantheon from the Western Hemisphere. Talking about creating portals and stuff like that between dimensions. The underworld, necromancer. Let's see, clarifying this. What is the message of this? Oh, that was the Archangel Commander and the Reaper at the bottom of the deck. Oh, there's the Necromancer! Oh my gosh! All these cards I was just thinking about. The Discerning one almost came out. Come on, you're gonna have to jump out for me now. Jump out for me now. One card, please. Jump out for me now. One card. Or at least like flip over or something. Like you gotta really stand out. There we go. Thank you. Bottom of the deck now is Sacred Fire. Ace of Wands. Things getting lit. Hey! Oh! Guess who it is? It's the Ebony Shield. Okay. Yeah, Shadow Energy is ready to play nice. No longer distracting the Shining Dew with apples, getting it away from its spirituality and getting it entangled in the physicality. Again, like I said, it's bringing us the gift of like, oh, that's what it has to contribute. It's improving our physical experience. This is the healing and the lightness and the raised perspective that we get. This is the ability to really sort of like live our physical experiences in the way that we want, but it's through a cooperative way more so than a dominating way. Archangel of Mysteries, King of Orbs, not him. Where is she? The Ebony Shield. Here we go. Queen of Orbs. The Queen of Orbs brings nourishment so that you have the vitality to accomplish your goals and the strength to overcome your challenges. She bears the apple of knowledge. We talked about knowledge down here, didn't we? She bears the apple of knowledge that will fortify you with all that you need to be your most resourceful. Excuse me. The Ebony Shield brings protection around your wealth, luck, gains, and earthly dominion so that others cannot take what is yours. When the Ebony Shield appears to you, she is making her presence known so that you might take prudent action to preserve your assets and capital. Save, invest, and be more mindful of your security. A female ancestor or one from your maternal lineage can appear to you through the Ebony Shield. And we did talk about saving and investing. That came out with Drive related to the Chariot related to knowledge. I think it was Drive in the Wisdom of Organesha. And I don't know, it seems like there's opportunity coming up, and we want to be present for that opportunity. Also, sometimes I think this is also talking about how like when we sort of neglect our own shadows and when we're separated from our own shadows, it leaves us susceptible to other shadows. And sometimes things from outside of us get to us through those spaces where it's like if we had our own shadow attached to the light, then it would protect us. But since it's absent, it's like any shadow has entry to it. And that can come more sort of practically in the way of like when we don't fully accept who we are, we can be convinced of things by other people that aren't us, right? It's like if we fully accepted who we were and if we fully loved ourselves, there would be all of this extra baggage that society and other people try to throw onto us, all of these like negative labels and like all of this other stuff that like we would be solid enough within self to know that that's not us. All of the different ways in which it projects whatever, we don't have to pick up because we have that more complete understanding of self. And that's this. It like shores us up. It protects us because that's no longer a point of entry to us. It's basically like when people take advantage of your insecurities. If you're no longer insecure about your insecurities, then people can't do that. And if people watch you or if people observe you, then they may assume that's like you have these certain insecurities because you don't do this or you don't do that or whatever. And they may try to sort of get to you in those ways. But again, if you're sort of solid, then it won't happen. Moving on to number 7. This is something that needs to be addressed in this. So this may be, I haven't read it yet, but this may be like the reason why the light and the dark need to come together in the first place, or what the union of those two energies can birth out into the world. We have sacred fire here, which means like if there's a sacred fire, then there's also like the opposite, like a sacred shadowy type of energy, because the fire gives off light and the shadow from sacred fire is also sacred. And again, like that's how I saw it a while ago. It's like there's this light, and when we're attached to our shadow and when we have a healthy dynamic between light and shadow, then the shadow outside, like let's say that this is the light and these are the shadow, even though it's kind of sort of the opposite, but it happens both ways. Like also the light protects the shadow from other shadows, like I just said, like when we have it attached. So both ways, it's like with the shadow being in proper proportion to the light, it's like it protects it from all of the shadows around it. And it gives the light that space to be its brilliance without light encroaching upon it. It's like the Eight of Wands in the Wild Unknown Tarot, because it's like there's one wand and then it gets struck by lightning and the light creates these other shadows that go like that. It penetrates that little, I wasn't going to grab it, but I'll grab it. It penetrates that little bubble and it gets closer to the light than it would if the shadow was like solid. Double energy on the bottom of the deck. There's a 10 of Wands. Let's look. Watch it be at like the top of the deck. Yeah. See, if the shadow was like airtight, then those other shadows wouldn't be able to penetrate that bubble of light and get that close to the wand. Right? If the shadow was like solid, then they wouldn't get there. Anyway, that's kind of how it was. What's before this? Oh my gosh. Hold on. Wait. Yeah. There it is. The Six of Pentacles is by that. And the Five of Cups. The Five of Cups is what happens in despair and separation. The Six of Pentacles is what has the potential to grow when they work together. Because when you grow anything, a lot of plants require both shadow and light. In the shadow, they do all the I think it's the Calvin cycle happens in the shadow. Is it the Calvin cycle or the Krebs cycle? They might be the same. In the light, it creates sugar, right? Yeah. Plants create sugar in the light. They use the energy from sunlight and they use water and they use carbon dioxide to chain carbon dioxide, hydrogen, and water into these C6H12O6 compounds that are sugars. So like fructose is like a fruit sugar. There's like other sugars. They make sugar. Okay, glucose. I think it's been a while since I took that class. but they use sunlight to turn carbon dioxide and water into sugar. And then in the Calvin cycle or in the Krebs cycle, when there's no sunlight, it's like, okay, well, we're not making sugar right now. It reduces sugar into something else, I think. It might break down sugar to feed itself. And then when it does that, it also creates the compounds that it needs to build the sugar. I don't remember. It's been a minute. I'm sure if I sat down with my book. Actually, well, that's my chemistry book. I have my freshman year chemistry book up there, but anyway, that's not the point. The point is it needs both light and dark. Okay. There are light processes and dark processes, and they all contribute to the overall growth and health of that plant. So number 7, this is, something that we gotta address or whatever. Ooh, it's the conservator. 4 of orbs. I like this because in this conservator, this is the sun in Capricorn. Oh my gosh, and it's Capricorn season. What? What? Y'all see that? Sun in Capricorn. We're in Capricorn season right now. The conservator is a protector. And we have all of the elements present here. There's this solar plexus, heart, kind of throat energy, and this crown energy. Also, we're doubly grounded in the root. And I guess the sacral can fit in that a little bit, maybe. And so we're grounded in the light, we're grounded in the shadow, and then we're also grounded in these higher aspects of those that give us an understanding of the elements at large, all of which are necessary for life on Earth. It feels like for those who are called to unite their light and their dark, they kind of serve as in a spiritual way, they serve as protectors of Earth in a way of like whenever something comes up that needs to be addressed, they hold the energy of addressing it instead of someone who would hold the energy of ignoring it or bypassing it or being obsessed with it. They maintain that balance so that we're not completely plunged into the darkness when something happens because the scale shifts to the fear of the unknown. But also, they hold the space of awareness when things are illuminated to us that we wish we didn't see or that we wish weren't true. Right? So, for the people who would lower the veil or to reveal themselves after the veil had been lifted on some of the shadow, the conservator would hold that energy of addressing it. When everything happens and we're sort of like plunged into mass sort of chaos and confusion and fear and stuff like that, then the conservator is the one who holds the peace. They stand in between the shadow and the light, and they hold both so that the world can keep on turning, basically, because like I said, you need light and shadow for things to grow. And it's not like good or bad or this or that. It just is what it is. Just kind of sort of like you need feminine and masculine or, genetically, just like the way reproduction works, the way that electricity flows because of the movement of electrons around these proton neutron cores, how things flow from greater concentration to a lesser concentration, things like everything. It's that difference that is the driving force of life. If there's no difference, there's no motivation for one thing to go from one place to another. And that's like a lot of physics. A lot of physics is like the driving force. It's a difference in concentration. It's a difference in potential. And the lower the concentration, like the greater the potential. The greater the potential, the lower the concentration. Right? It's like if you have a room that has a 10-person capacity. Well, if you have no people in that room, there's a potential for 10 more people to be there. If you have 9 people in that room, there's only potential for one more person. So they're sort of inversely related, and it's all about finding balance and a flow in the sweet spot. And it's the conservators that, again, like they facilitate the turning of the world because it can't be all light all the time and it can't be all dark all the time. And there is this place where we can be informed and not consumed, and where we can be hopeful but not ignorant. Sacred fire. So at the bottom, it's like that's a sacred duty, I guess. I don't know. Ooh, this is interesting. So let's go to the conservator. The conservator is the maintenance work, investments, and natural resources needed in reign, rule, and order. This is the spirit presented in your life path when you are demonstrating an inordinate attachment to the material. This is earthly power you are clinging desperately to at the expense of greater spiritual realization. The conservator is both the spirit of that which is empirical and orderly, efficient and pragmatic, and also that which is self serving, covetous, and parsimonious. That's a word that we're going to have to define. Hey Siri, define parsimonious.
Parsimonious means unwilling to spend money or use resources, stingy or frugal.
Okay, so yeah, that was that. Was it down here at the chariot or the politic? It might have been the politic or the demiurge. That was basically that energy where both people leave 25% fulfilled because neither one of them were willing to be minorly inconvenienced to make sure that the other person was 100% fulfilled. So this did come out in the space of something that we need to address as well. And so we need to address, I guess, that polarization of the light and shadow, but also we need to address our need to eliminate the differences between them or to see them as the same. Because again, without that polarization, nothing can exist. Like I don't remember fully the story of creation in Genesis, but I think night and day were like one of the first things that God did. He created light to differentiate the night from the day. And then after there was night and day, everything else came, right? And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And like there was the night and there was the day, or the evening and the morning was the first day, or something like that. Like the day was one of the first things created. That duality, that polarization is necessary for things to be. Without that, we are all one. And there is no individual experience. And for whatever reason, the world came into being like there was a reason. Right? So I think this is to not be too consumed either way. Or that's what we need to address. We need to address probably mostly like this materialisticness. Oh, well, here's the Queen of Pentacles. Well, at first she was detracting us from spirituality. Now she's trying to like, it's all in our relationship with the shadow. And when we cooperate, again, like if you're not willing to make that relationship a healthy one, then it's going to continue to be that unhealthy, not really fulfilled. Everything like can change at a moment's notice, and like It makes things a lot more. Oh, this is interesting. This is interesting. So, but okay, so the way I wrote this spread, this is the space of a conscious blockage or limitation. There is no resolution. I don't think I wrote any resolution in this. Because one is the matter that we need to address, and then the other is the blockage or limitation. So, I mean, I guess when you address the blockage and limitation, then it changes things. I'm actually going to read this another way. Well, mm, I want to read this another way because this to me is saying something that wasn't, and it's fine, like because we go with it intuitively. The cards that came out, it's the joined one and the Archangel of Mysteries. The Two of Cups and the Archangel of Mysteries. The angel who was permitted to walk both the higher realms and the lower realms, and because she can walk the lower realms and not be lost in them, one of her abilities or functionalities, one of her jobs is to assist lost souls because she can go into the darkness and knows how to navigate back to the light. Archangel of Mysteries, Two of Cups. I think what this is saying is, and again, when it came to the conservator, it's like those who can integrate these light and shadow energies sort of become these archangels of mysteries types of energy. And here we have everything except for the shining veil, the shining quarry, maybe. And we got everything except for the Knight of Pentacles. Here's the page, here's the Queen, there's the King of Pentacles. All on the shadow side. On the light side, where we have the healer with the two cups pouring out onto the land and one into the sea, we have these two cups both being filled by this caduceus like type of kundalini, twin kundalini that gets its strength from this divine source. Interesting. I love that. Concluding this, I love that. I'm going to read the Archangel of Mysteries first. Oh, wait, I think it was right here. I think. Archangel of Mysteries, King of Orbs. The King of Orbs is the Archangel of Mysteries. Another one of her many names is the Archangel of Revelations. She is a beneficent guide connected to the underworld, one authorized to act as an intermediary and mediator between the angelic realm still subservient to the divine and the realm of the fallen angels. She can also transverse through all of the lower realms to guide lost souls. The Archangel of Mysteries appears now because these qualities and powers of protection of hers are needed by you. The King of Orbs illuminates the darkness for you, who are about to transverse the realms of shadow. You are about to uncover great mysteries. This is the archangel who protects you against all forms of darkness along your initiatory path of discovery. The King of Orbs is the great provider. You too are a great provider to others. With her lantern, the Archangel of Mysteries illuminates crossroads. She is the great master of spells and incantations. The ears of corn symbolize the seeds of spiritual enlightenment through the erudite study of esoteric practices. You manifest your material abundance through spiritual abundance. I've said that. Spiritual coins and physical pinnacles. Okay, let's go. Let's find this two. Realm of twos. Here we go. Nice, right here. The joined one. In external alchemy, the joined one guides us to choose our allies. It designates an outer accord, but also an inner accord. In the internal alchemy, this spirit guides us to unite our anima and animus. This is the spirit of two becoming one, and an omen of perfected love, love in all its divine forms. Abyssus, abyssum, and wokat, sea calls to sea, or the depths of me calls out to the depths of you. Do not neglect the relationship you cherish. since it mentioned relationships and since it is the Two of Cups, this could also be because it mentioned perfected love, right? And it's difficult to reach perfected love of someone else while we don't have a perfected love of self. And it's through this perfected love of self that we can really maintain love to the point of creating a perfected love or a more perfected love with someone else. So, like, this is everything that we have to do within ourselves, not only to really manifest a relationship, a more intimate, personal, romantic relationship, or even platonic relationships, or even to elevate our familial relationships, to get relationships that are more perfected. Um, but also, it speaks of what will be our ability to serve the collective in other ways. And it all, like, all of that we have the opportunity to get more into now. If we choose, have chosen, or will choose to properly exit this cycle rather than perpetrating it in ways in which, like, we think that we're not. Right? Because it's like if all we have to contribute to a cycle is more distrust, then, like, what are we really like? Distrust was already there. Fear was already there. Um, Willingful ignorance was already there. And, like, when it comes to, like, creating new paradigms, I guess the question for me is, like, in my own personal life, it's like, what am I doing that's different, that's new, and that's innovative, and that's gonna lead me to a different place? Because collectively, it seems like a lot of and again, I know that the people and the messages that I came across, I had to or I needed to get to the point where I was speaking, first of all, and to kind of sort of show me the world that I wish to create for myself and for the people who align to that vibration, I guess. It's like, what are we doing or saying or putting into the conversation that's new and that's innovative, right? Like, you can't trust this and you can't trust that, and this ain't real and that ain't real, and, like, be afraid of this or don't be afraid of that. Like, none of that is new, none of that is revolutionary, none of that is groundbreaking. And that's why, like, I'm not really surprised that we're handling this the way that we handled it. I'm not surprised that we're still handling this the way that we're handling it, and that things have become what they've become. I know that, like, it was what, the 4th of July, and I actually saw a few people who were talking about how the fireworks in California, like, made them feel some type of way. And I'm like, this is what I expected Americans to do, more so than anybody else, is to ignore all protocols, to say F this and F that. I'm gonna do what I want to do because it brings me immediate, like, gratification and satisfaction in this moment. And I have no care or worry or concern for the long term or for anyone else. Like, that's not new. That's not groundbreaking. We've been doing that for a very long time. So, like, that's what I expected. It didn't make me feel, oh my gosh, like, there's still hope in this time of darkness. It's like, no, this is what I expected us to do. And then, I also had to address my own expectations for the collective. And so I went through that process of choosing to be mindful of our history while hoping that we will change moving forward into the future. But a lot of this has gone down pretty much as expected. And you'll see some things that's like, oh, this is what we expected their side to do. We expected that there would be this and there would be that, and then a vaccine would come out and they would try to get people to take it, and that's how they'll control us. And it's like, okay, maybe, yeah, but also this is the response that somebody probably expected from you. This is the wheel turning. Like, nothing has shifted in that narrative, nothing has changed. Where does the change happen? Where do we inject the change? because it's certainly not in that. But again, that's been my own sort of personal perspective. And a lot of times it's like we claim the label of free thinker or individual, but what we actually do is we trade in one hierophant for another. And it's like, I mean, I guess you did make that choice and decision and you thought for yourself long enough to go and follow somebody else's thought. But, and then also, we do find people who hold thoughts that are resonant to our own. So it's not necessarily just jumping on someone else's bandwagon. But I'm like, that's what I'm talking about when I'm like, if we know how powerful of creators we are, like we can use those abilities more effectively and in some ways more responsibly, not by ignoring, but by doing this, like this balancing of the two, right? Like floods in the Bible happened, great calamities in a lot of systems have happened. And the point wasn't to collectively continue doing the same thing that is causing that destruction or that reset or that cleansing or purging in the first place. It's to actually address it, which is why I'm so glad I found the story of Jonah and when he went to the city of Nineveh in the Bible Stories book that I was drawn to. It's like everything on this bookshelf has been in this bookshelf in the whole year I've been here. And my eye just went there and I flipped to the story of Jonah. Jonah was swallowed by the whale because he didn't go to the city of Nineveh when God told him to go there. And when he finally got there and he told the people that their city would be destroyed, the God-fearing people in Nineveh decided that they would get their stuff together. And even the king himself put in royal decree where it's like, okay, we're getting our stuff together. And then God didn't have to destroy the city because they got it together. But Jonah felt some type of way because it didn't get destroyed. And God was like, well, is it right for you to be angry that I didn't destroy this city full of people who live lives and have families and loved ones to satisfy some kind of prophet of doom ego that you may have going on? And Jonah, like, first, Jonah ain't say nothing. But then, it was hot and God gave him a vine that, made him cool. And he was like, oh, gosh, thank you for this vine, God. Like, I appreciate this. And then, throughout the night, he sent a worm to destroy the vine. And Jonah knew that God sent the worm when he woke up and like he was sweating. He was like, oh my gosh, what happened to my vine? And he saw the worm. And he's like, God, like, why'd you send this worm? Why did you destroy my vine? He said, you had this vine for one day, for this one specific reason. You love this vine. There's a city full of people that I loved for years. And it's like, you care more about the vine that you lost this one day. Now you're a little hot. And these other people would have lost like their entire everything. And he was like, is it right for you to be mad at me for destroying the vine, but at the same time being mad at me for not destroying that city? Like, girl, go find a tree, sit in the shade. Hello? Anyway, I'm glad I came across that story now. And again, of course, I find it now. But like, I don't know, it's interesting to me, I guess, that like, we can hold these spaces like, oh, it's a test and it's this and it's that. But I don't, in my mind, maybe it's because of some of the Bible stories that I grew up on, but like when the divine is testing us, it ain't like a false alarm. Like how we have fire drills, it's like an actual fire. And then if you don't get out of the fire, you burn up. Now, if you're Lot in the space of in the space of Sodom and Gomorrah, or if you're Noah in the space of wherever he was, then the divine will tell you, hey, things are about to go down. You need to get ready. You need to get prepared so you can so you'll be taken care of as this goes down. And then you do whatever you got to do. You build that ark. You tell your wife and whoever to flee, and also you don't look back. Because Sarah looked back and she got turned into a pillar of salt. And then my dude Lot couldn't even look back in that direction because if he looked back, then he also would have got turned into a pillar. All of a sudden, Sarah is there and then she's not there. And it's like, girl, I told you not to look back. We were told not to look back. Why did you look back, Sarah? But I ain't looking back at you. I'll find somebody else. My heart will go on. And And it may sound a little cold, but it's like we all know what it is that we have to do. And we're all we can be is responsible for ourselves. And we all make choices and decisions. And those choices and decisions are honored by the divine, by spirit, and most definitely by some folks like me, I guess. Because it's like, wow, I may have wanted you here, and man, Sarah, I wish you were still here. But it's kind of selfish of me for me to wish that you were here when you didn't wish that you were here enough to not look back. So, you know, anyway, anyway, trial by fire. Things are made in fire, forged in fire. Not trial by fire. Blades are forged in fire and under pressure and from repeated striking, from tempering. And then you go from hot to cold to hot to cold. Um, yeah. And like it's something that we can still get. Like, and it's because what was that early? I think that was after the lockdown started. It may have been in March in some place when I got the forest. Like the forest in the box kept coming out in the wild unknown archetypes, and I was like, "There's this fog that's coming in, and this fog is going to block out all light. Like the only way to really sort of limit the distorted projection is to block out all light." And in the space of that darkness, in the space of that fog and that mist, strength and the lovers. Final messages. This is the courage and the strength to make those hard choices, to make those hard decisions, and to do that hard work. That is the control that we have over self while we're making these choices and decisions to come into these beautiful spaces and to claim these things that are ours to claim, but you still got to do whatever. And then the bottom of the deck is the vagabond. Five of Cups, and it was the Five of Cups and the Six of Pentacles around the Eight of Pentacles, around the Eight of Wands. Sorry, I'm actually gonna I-Ching these two. I gotta go to the bathroom again. I drank way too much water. But I was like, there are going to be some people who navigate through the forest, who navigate out of the fog, and those are going to be the people who reach those levels of self mastery. And then it evolved into like there are going to be those who find the light within themselves. And those are going to be the people who reach like that mastery. Because like that's kind of sort of how you see. And then that was like, are you going to be a star or are you going to be a satellite? And I think a lot of satellites, like I think maybe we thought that we were stars in some areas, and we discovered that we were actually satellites. And the difference is a satellite doesn't have any light of its own. It reflects the light of another star. So everything in our solar system besides the sun is a satellite. Every planet, every moon, every artificial satellite, it's all reflective of sunlight. If we didn't have a sun, we wouldn't have seen Jupiter and Saturn in the sky. We only saw them because they reflect sunlight. And those two satellites came together in a space in a way that amplified the light, so it shone brighter instead of like one sort of eclipsing and hiding the other one. But again, like it's all sunlight. That's the one. It's all the sun. But we do at the same time we have these different planets that we see because of the sun, who have their own unique attributes and their own rulerships and their own domains because of where they fall in position to the sun. And then, sometimes we're stars where we have our own light, where even in the space of darkness, even in the space of difficulty, we still shine. And it was an opportunity to find that star within us and to be less of a satellite. Now, what happens is you end up with a constellation of stars, I guess, by the end of this experience. And then there will be satellites that gravitate to those stars. And so there will be many systems here, I guess. New systems that more accurately reflect that sort of Aquarian, Age of Aquarius energy, right? They're like, oh, it's all about the collective instead of the individuals. And like Age of Pisces was like, you have this Messiah and that Savior, but in the Age of Aquarius, like we're all our own sort of whatever. But like we don't just become those, we have to become those. Like we don't just wake up in the Age of Aquarius and all of a sudden everyone's a star, everyone's got their own light. It's like, no, we all have to find it somehow. And a lot of things are forged in the fire. Unfortunately, that's the kind of sort of the trajectory that a lot of us follow, because humans can be creatures of habit and comfort. And if you don't have to work hard, like why would you? Some of us work hard because of whatever it gives us. Anyway, let me eat you this. Let me read the I Ching. Let me put on my other reading glasses. Yeah, I'll put these on. I'm not sure. Ooh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is Double Lake. I think I've read Double Lake before. Double Lake, Double Lake is 58 mirth. Yeah, this is the one that's like, don't let merriment devolve into debauchery. And it said something about intellectual discourse or something. This is one I get kind of often, honestly. So here it is: mirth and a joyous exchange. Inner light shines outward. Interesting. A small sacrifice in the moment to ensure greater gains later. An auspicious omen. Proceeding on your endeavor will yield a fortuitous outcome. However, the oracle offers a gentle warning. Joy must be controlled and sincere. Every space of that joy occupied equally with humility. Do not let merriment degenerate to debauchery. To maintain joy, maintain lively intellectual discourse with your equals. Learning on your own is not enough. Amplify that education by studying further with others. To seek joy is to seek discourse that will advance your body of knowledge. There's knowledge again. A small sacrifice in the moment to ensure greater gains later. Inner light shines outward. Joy must be controlled and sincere. Every space of that joy occupied equally with humility. Like, I feel like that's a lot of what I was already saying. So that just further like clarifies that. So that's what I got. I'm gonna just end this here. I am gonna read the Vagabond. The Grotesque. Sorry, this is the Grotesque. And I love the message of the Grotesque, because the Grotesque is all about finding that inner light within us that may have been shunned by society. So it's very realistic that there are things that we subscribe to shadow within us that's actually parts and pieces of our life. But, like I was saying, if we don't sort of integrate our own shadows, then we can be more convinced by the external that other things are shadows, even though they may not necessarily be for us. Grotesque is lost after. Hold on, wait. The grotesque is lost after the waning of joy. Oh, after the waning of joy, after that joy has devolved into debauchery, I guess. A personal feeling of disfigurement, a mystery, an unseen power, and unseen power rising. When your blood, sweat, and tears have been expended without yielding fruition or meaning. The grotesque is the spirit who will appear by your side. Yet, behind the grotesque are two intact chalices, symbolic of powers and personal talismans as help or to help navigate social circumstances where you feel like the disfigured one, the outcast, and to gift you with arcane powers that have always been reserved for the grotesque ones. Your differences, which others have denigrated, are the very powers and talismans that will catapult you above all others and toward greatness. The grotesque is the spirit here to guide you on that daunting aspiration. Hey, that's what we got. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty gorgeous. It's pretty magical, all those things, but it's not without the work. And I don't know. Over here, I feel like maybe we've done the work, or I mean, we're always still doing work. So maybe it's a reminder to keep going. Maybe it's a reminder that everything that you thought you lost will be returned to you in numbers far greater if you made those small sacrifices to ensure the greater gain later. It also, I remember another one that was coming out all the time was that those who serve the kingdom should not accept gratuities for their service. And if you can refrain from accepting things now, you'll be paid more handsomely later, things like that. That Wheel of Fortune means it's all coming, but when the light and the shadow are integrated, it demystifies the Wheel of Fortune. When they're not integrated, a lot of it can be like chance or happenstance. But when they are integrated, we see how one thing on a grander level affects and impacts and influences another. And so it gives us the ability to really clockwork our own experiences by interlocking different wheels as if they were gears, and smaller wheels turn bigger wheels. Now, some of those gears in the clockwork we can control. Some of those gears in the clockwork we don't, and that's where that chariot sort of like willingness, the chariot, the politic, and whatever, that willingness to like for both parties to be fulfilled instead of not wanting to be minorly inconvenienced. And actually, because we don't want to be minorly inconvenienced, we get less fulfillment out of it. We're not willing to pay the extra for what we actually want, even though we have the resources to do so. We just may think that we don't. It's what we want. It's what we desire, and we all have the right to choose for ourselves, and that choice is honored. And we should kind of be glad that that choice is honored, because at least we know that, hey, like, if I'm doing all of this and then I don't even get anything as the payout, then like, what's up with that, right? And like, that's how we actually, we actually kind of sort of know that things kind of sort of happen or are, even if we feel like our choices are influenced. And they are, right? Our choices are influenced, but at the end of the day, they're still our choices. Some people don't see it that way. And some people don't make their own choices and decisions, but like if you go along with it, that's still your choice at the end of the day, and it's still honored because you could not, Anyway, I hope you have a good whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make it even better. If you've done the work, girl, maybe relax a little bit. Whatever your body is telling you that you need right now, give it. If it's rest, do that. If it's a little bit of movement, do that. If it's, I don't know, a salad or some French fries from McDonald's, okay, your body might not be telling you that you want French fries from McDonald's, but you might just want some French fries from McDonald's. Do that. I'm just playing. All right, I'll catch y'all later. Bye.